Hey, it's Mike Brennan. We're doing another one of our segments on MITechTV. I'm doing this with my business partner, Melih Oztalay. Many of you know he's been developing, over the last few months, a whole series on how to use the artificial intelligence in business. And geez, there's just so much to talk about. He's going to try to simplify that because I know I'm a little confused and I cover this for a living. And I'm sure a lot of business folks out there are very confused. Take it away, Maley. Let's talk about what you did in the last segment that you did back in November.
Yeah, Mike, great to be on the show again. And thank you for having me before the end of the year, as before we get to the holiday season. And we're going to continue talking about how do we prepare for AI marketing in 2026. We talked a little bit about that in the last segment about a month ago. And a month ago, we talked a lot about AI first infrastructure. In other words, what is the infrastructure that you're using in your business, in your website, and in your marketing, for example? And listen, I don't want to uh, not mention operations because there's so much AI that can be implemented into your business operations. Let's not get into all that. We don't have a lot of time. Let's focus on AI and marketing, AI and sales, and how do we develop an AI first infrastructure? We talked about that in the last segment. Now we also talked about AI with search engine optimization, AI with generative engine optimization, and what that all we touched on that. And then the other thing we talked about last time was conversion rate optimization. In other words, how do we use data and information about our website visitors for what I call data activation to figure out how do we secure more leads and sales? That's what we talked about then. But I want to build on that for this segment, and we'll just kind of work our way through these three areas again with a little bit more detail today. A couple of examples along the way, and then close it out with what should CEOs do. Anyway, that's my kind of my summary for today. What are your thoughts?
Sounds great. Yeah, let's simplify this as much as possible because everything is moving so fast in the AI world. And it's hard for people, even people like me that cover this, to keep up with everything and all the new terms. So, yeah, let's go through all that. We were talking just before we started, and there's some terms in there I wasn't familiar with. So, we take it away and simplify this for us.
I hope so. Yeah, I think 2025 was an amazing year um, in terms of all the various AI tools that have come about. In other words, ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity and Claude. To be perfectly honest with you, they're now old AI media. It's that's the traditional AI now. And we've expanded so fast and so much in 2025 in so many different areas of AI. It's mind-boggling. Yeah, I can't even imagine what we're going to see in 2026, considering there's so much investment going on into the AI world globally. It's not just in the United States; it's all over the board. So let's start with the basics that people are able to at least better understand. So we're going to talk about search engine optimization, and I think what we need to talk about is SEO is search engine optimization. That's been around going back into the 1990s. The one that started around 2013 with Google's Hummingbird algorithm is called AEO. At least that's the category that a lot of things kind of fell into as time progressed. But that's answer engine optimization, and meaning that you're answering the possible questions that somebody might be searching on, so that you're able to be found based on that. And that's a simple way for me to to explain it without getting technical. And I'm actually trying to hold myself back from digging into that. And the last one, which is what we're kind of doing nowadays with AI, is generative engine optimization, or GEO. So the three items are SEO, AEO, and GEO. Now, if you think all you need to do is GEO, then you've got it wrong. You're actually doing all three nowadays. You're still going to do the standard SEO. You're still going to implement AEO as your content within your website in terms of how you're answering potential questions that your target audience is going to ask. And then the third one is the AI side of it with GEO. All three of those run simultaneously. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's no version where you just do one or the latest version and then skip the other two. I'm sorry, this is not going to happen. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, it sounds very complicated. So, if the typical business person watching this that wants to have his website be as responsive and easily found as possible, how would they use all three at once? I mean, obviously they need to hire somebody like you, but I mean, how does that play out exactly?
So, first of all, I think it's important to understand that Google's search results are declining, okay? Or Google searches in Google, the traditional version of Google is declining. And, listen, I'm not suggesting it's declining by a billion, but it's any number, anything, any number that's going, what we're seeing is that there's a downward trend in searches. I think that's the best way to talk about it. We're also seeing a decline in click-through rates at Google. But what's on the other hand, what we're seeing is AI responses are rising. And so essentially what we're saying is that AI engines, your GPTs, Gemini's, Perplexities, Claude's, ChatGPT, Copilot, they're all shaping the first impressions before websites are visited. In other words, people are doing their research in AI and getting exactly what they want. And I can even give you an example where I ran a search in ChatGPT, and I ran a search in Google Traditional. And believe me, I got the answer I wanted, and I found 3 to 5 websites that were specific to what I needed versus in the Google case, the traditional Google search results. It literally took me 15 minutes to get through all websites and figure out if they were the right thing that I was looking for. So the AI engines is on the rise. And you're no longer worried about ranking. I know that sounds silly considering we've been at it for 30 years since saying, I need to be ranked, I need to be ranked. Now it's about that's ranking is being replaced by being referenced. So AI engines are saying, are you referenced out there? Are you in your website, your web address, etc., in notable websites? Are can AI engines say that yes, you're trustworthy? So you need to move away from thinking I need to get ranked and go towards being referenced and get your website into publications and press releases and all these different possibilities that are on the market. Um, so my point is companies who rely on traditional SEO, they're going to lose out. And that's not the way to go. You need to be able to run SEO, AEO, GEO simultaneously, focusing a lot on GEO. But more importantly, what I've said before, go to ChatGPT or your favorite GPT. Ask it to recommend companies that do what you do. In other words, it should be your competition. 9 times out of 10, you're going to find that you are not on that list in the results from ChatGPT. Your next question to ChatGPT is, why did you not include my company in your list? And you're going to get a long to-do list like this that's going to tell you exactly what you need to do so you can be referenced. That's the trick to do. I mean, it's a very simple process. It's a nice to-do list. Just start from the top and work your way down. That's the best way to go about this. And essentially, you're going to be creating content that is ideal for what AI is expecting. It's got to be Q&A format. It's got to be structured lists. Mike, we've talked about this on your website as well. We need to go and get the schema code from ChatGPT for a web page. We need the JSON script, and you take all of that right from ChatGPT, copy paste it into a page, and all of a sudden that page will start to get attention. And I think you even mentioned that you saw those types of results.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the customer journey, managing it, all that AI driven stuff. How do they actually implement all this? You just discussed part of it, but is there more?
Mhm. So um, everything we just talked about in terms of SEO, AEO, and GEO is all about optimizing your website so that it can be referenced with the AI engines. Okay, so that's one piece of the puzzle. But now let's assume you're starting to get traffic. You're still getting traffic from Google. You're getting traffic from your referral sources. You're getting traffic from social. Now you're getting traffic from AI. So these website visitors are coming, and the question is, how do we, number one, increase the number of leads that we're getting, or sales, whichever, depending on what your website does. And number two is, how do we reduce the time it takes for that website visitor to become a lead or a sale? And this is where customer journey mapping comes in place, or what we call, the journey funnel, the website visitor journey funnel. And in this case, we're using AI. We're using three major tools. Well, four. Number one, you're using AI to track the website visitor's journey within your website, and thereby creating that journey funnel for that visitor. And I'll get into the details. Number two, you're using an AI chatbot. And why are you doing that? Because a lot of the website visitors don't want to talk to you yet. They want to first start by getting some information. And if you have an AI chatbot on your website, they're more likely to be able to interact with it, and thereby allowing the chatbot to help facilitate having them become a lead. And the third item is heat maps. We need to know where people are clicking within a web page. That's going to help determine what the layout, the call to actions, and how people perceive what you have put together in your web page. So how do we use that to improve our web pages, layouts and buttons and colors and so on and so forth? And last but not least, I'm going to tell you that we need A/B testing. So or ABC testing. You're going to create your homepage, and you might create 3 or 4 versions of it. And each version has to be distinctly different from the previous one, so you can get a sense of which one performs better. But those are your 4 major items when it comes to website journey mapping of your customers, and how that facilitates improving, having them become leads and having them become leads faster. So this is the game that we need to play in 2026. When we talk about human search, AI summary, social algorithm exposure, email signals, CRM behavior, all these different things are going to play into it. And the concept over here is this: we want to identify what that website visitor is doing, and based on where they are in that funnel that the AI determines, it is going to generate an active call to action. In other words, it gets more aggressive the further down in that funnel that visitor becomes. In other words, the last stage is that they should be in the decision stage. It could be after 1 visit, it could be after 5 visits or 3 visits. That's the concept of the journey funnel. You're trying to figure out how to get that website visitor to become a lead and do so faster. And we're using the AI tools to make it all happen.